Morning, folks. How are we all today? I hope we're doing well. Tuesday, the 24th of the 6th, 2025. And another day when the war drums are beating, but we'll get there. Before we actually go on to all that sort of thing this morning, folks, I wanted to have a wee look at how the channel's doing. I haven't looked for a week or two, which is not like me. I normally monitor things really quite closely. But I thought, well, let's show the audience how the channel's doing. So I'll throw up the analytics for the channel. Let's hope you can see that. We'll make it bigger. But we'll make it even bigger again. There you go. Keep it up. Your channel is about the same numbers of views as usual. Not great, but like it to be better. But we normally hit between 21 and 25,000 views a month. We normally hit between 5,000 and 6,000 viewing hours. They're doing this month actually, but the weather's been good, so that accounts for that. Subscribers, we're not doing great. We've got 3,394. I'd like to get that 6 to get us 3,400, and by the end of the year, I'd like to get us to 4,000. But it's a limited audience. Morning, William. And revenue, as you can see, it tells us that so far we've generated £387.49 since the last 28 days lapsed. Now, there's always an overlap, and there's always more funds paid out to us than that actual number. But that's the actual number that's been raised in the 28 days so far, or up till now in the 28-day cycle, which is £387.49. That should be getting paid to us round about now. But as I say, the number actually that will be paid to us will be a wee bit higher because there's always a wee bit left there for the month before. So I'll get on to getting that out to Midlothian later on. But I thought I'd just give you all a wee view at how the channel's doing. So the channel is you guys. You guys are the channel. No us, the presenters. You guys who view the channel are the channel. So I want to thank you all. As I say, so the channel's it's quite healthy. I'd like it to be healthier. I'd like it to be bigger, but we've got a limited audience here in Scotland. So actually in Scotland, that's a fair-sized channel because we're taking it mainly on the indigenous population, or mainly on the population of Scotland, because of what it is David and I do and the subjects we cover, being mainly Scottish, related to Scottish independence. But as you know, folks, we also cover beyond our borders. And I think the people out with Scotland don't quite get that. Because when I'm watching other people's channels and they see my name coming up and they mention the channel, they always seem to link it with Scottish independence rather than current affairs. Which is fair enough. We have a great, strong interest in Scottish independence. In fact, we're all pro-independence supporters, the majority is. But as I say, one of the things that limits the amount of audience that we actually get is when other YouTubers mention us when they're putting out their programs and they see my name coming up in the audience, they'll say the Two Davies, they cover Scottish independence. We don't just cover Scottish independence, we cover current affairs. And when people are talking about the channel, especially other YouTubers, I'd like them to mention that we cover current affairs from a Scottish perspective, as opposed to covering Scottish independence, because that's not what we're doing. There isn't the independence movement, there isn't the independence campaign at this point in time. What we're actually doing is covering current affairs from a Scottish perspective. We cover 5 stories internally in Scotland in the Two Davies, and then we cover 5 stories UK and wider world. in our current affairs programme. Now, obviously, the Indie Truck Davy programme is a different issue. I'm here covering news headlines each day and breaking down what's behind the headlines. And there's one really interesting. Hey, good morning, Sir Larry. That video you put out was brilliant yesterday. I shared it onto my timeline, and Charlie's watched it about half a dozen times, Sir Larry. Hey, they say that when other YouTubers are talking about the channel, it's very good of them to promote their channel. But I'd much rather they say we're a current affairs channel as a pro-Scottish independence channel. Because although David and I are pro-Scottish independence, you guys are all pro-Scottish independence, we're not here to talk Scottish independence. We're here to talk current affairs from a purely Scottish perspective. Right, anyway, that's enough of that. You've seen the channel analytics. The channel's quite healthy. In the last 48 hours, over 1,000 people have viewed the channel, which is not bad, considering it's only me putting stuff out at the moment. So, anyway, that's how well the channel's doing, thanks to you guys. Really thanks to you guys, the channel's doing really well. We're managing to help a lot of people here in Scotland thanks to you guys. And as I say, it's a healthy, redundant audience, which is a good thing. Right then, let's get this started. It's Indie Truck Davy out the truck and at home in his office in Salisbury, North Lanarkshire, where it is a miserable bloody morning. Quite warm, wet, 14 degrees. It's overcast. And the pollen count today is high. The main allergen is grass. Now that's what the weather's like here in Salisbury, North Lanarkshire. If you want to know what the weather's like where you are, look at your own bloody windy. Okie dokie. Right, a wee quick look to see who's in Leibson. Sir Larry the Cat, Malk McLagan, Stephen Kelly, Wolf Pet. We'll run up this comment, see who else is in. Aki's is in, Alistair's in, Eddie's in, Ange is in. Hey, Stephen Kelly, good morning, Stephen. Melanie, good morning, Melanie. How are you, my dear? June, hi, June. Hi, Tina, how's Dundee this morning? I hope it's drier than what it is here. Hey, who else we got? Hi, Christina. Hi, Avro. Hi, James. Hi, June. Hi, Doug. Nice to meet you on Saturday, Doug. Who else we got? Hi, John. Hi, Neil. Hi, James. I see John's in there somewhere. I know John O'Rourke. Hi, wee bud. Hi, Donald. How are you? Donald Sanson. Sanson. Sorry. Hi, Linda. Right, I think we've covered most of the people that's made a comment so far. Right, let's go on with this, folks. There's only one story in the papers today, except for one paper, the Herald, who always seem to be a wee bit different to the rest. Hey, Leibson, enjoy your couple of hours helping people out in your local area. And I hope you enjoy your own catch up. Nice of you to drop in. Okay, where are we? Aye, first up this morning, there's only one story, folks. And it's actually being portrayed as a lot of bollocks. We'll get to the truth of it as we go through the headlines, okay? So first up this morning, we'll get the Times. We'll stick it up. Oh, that's right, we're at the other end of the day. Behave yourself, David. Right, first up this morning, the Times. And the Times has Iran fires missiles at US base in Middle East. Okay, now this was Iran's so-called retaliatory strike at America. Interesting. It was very interesting, actually. I'm not going to break it down right away, but I will break it down as we go on, as we get through the headlines. But the byline there, millionaires to flee UK in record numbers. Quite right. We're living in an authoritarian state where protest movements are being classed as terrorist organisations. Yesterday, Palestine Action was prescribed a terrorist group for doing very little. A wee bit of vandalism here and there. Now, most of us are old enough to remember what went on at Fars Lane and Greenham Common during the CND massive protest back in the day. Young Reagan Elite, somebody put a comment out about Greenham Common and Reagan Elite's programme last night. And of course, with Reagan being roughly in his late 20s, he's a bit young to know about Greenham Common and what went on in the Fars Lane protests. But folks, what this group's been prescribed a terrorist group for was nothing. Absolutely nothing. I mean, 20 years ago, Starmer was actually protecting these people in courts for taking direct action in the form of protest. And he was arguing in the courts it was legitimate. Now, some Palestine peace protesters for Palestine Action broke into an airbase and daubed some red paint on the side of planes. They're being prescribed a terrorist organisation. The Minister for Defence should be dragged in front of the Commons and asked how the fuck they get in there in the first place. Is that how lapsed the security is in our military bases? Is it? The commander of the guard on the day it happened should be dragged in front of the courts and fucking jailed. Prescribed people carrying out legitimate peaceful protest, even if there is a bit of vandalism. Prescribing them as terrorists. If I was a millionaire, I'd get the fuck out of this authoritarian state and all. If it wasn't for the fact I wanted to stay here and fight for my country's freedom, independence, I'd be away to fucking all. I've got citizenship in another country. I can get up and move the Mora. Unfortunately for me, I can afford to get up and fucking move the Mora and all. But I'm not going anywhere, because my fight's here. My fight's here, and if Starmer wants to be able to fucking dictator, I'm quite happy to take him fucking on. Right, let's take that down. Anyway, Iran fires missiles at US base in Middle East. That gets more interesting when you get the details of what Iran actually did. Because you're not going to get it in these fucking rags. That's for sure. Right, next up this morning we have a Scotsman. What's the Scotsman got for us a day? The Scotsman has Iran attacks US bases as Britons are flown home. I guess the Britons are all way to Brittany and France because I've never met a fucking Briton. I keep telling people this. I met an Englishman, a Welshman, or an Irishman, a Scotsman. I've never met a fucking Breton. Whoever the fuck they are. But anyway, they're being flown back from the Middle East. Iran attacks US bases as Britons are flown home. Folks, it's time to hear the truth. The truth is, yep, Iran did fire missiles towards American bases, but they gave the countries their bases were in 3 hours notice, told them exactly when they were fired, and they sent ordinary missiles, no hypersonic missiles, so that they could be shot down. What Iran did yesterday was warn Middle Eastern states and the US that they could get there. They could get there with their missiles. What Iran did yesterday was very clever, very diplomatic. They retaliated, but they made sure that that retaliation did the strike. They told the Qataris and the Iraqis it was coming. They told the Yanks it was coming. They told them when it would arrive. And they told them to prepare. What they were doing was showing the Americans that the Iranians had the ability to reach their bases in the Middle East. And they were warning the countries that are hosting these countries, the American bases, sorry, they warned the countries that are hosting the American bases. You're no safe having these fucking American bases on your lands. And you're right, Sir Larry, the Iranians did it as a de-escalation. They had to fire back, and they had the right to do so under international law. Now, any further strikes by the US would be illegal. They were illegal to start with. But Iran, what they did was proportionate, and what they did was clever. And Iran has been very good at sticking to international law, only striking out when they get struck, because they are exercising their right to defend themselves. And see, what they did yesterday was diplomatically very clever. It put the wind up the Yanks, and it put the wind up the countries who are hosting these American bases. And that was a clever move. Because the Americans now live in fear of the bases being struck in the Middle East, and the countries who are hosting the American bases are now fearful that their civilian population could be hurt because the Yanks are there. It was very clever for the Iranians yesterday. Proportionate and clever. It was a wonderful, wonderful piece of diplomacy, even though there was weapons involved in it. Can't fault them. They have stuck strictly within the rules of international law. Can't say the same for the Americans, the Israelis, the UK, or any other fucker that's complicit in Israel's crimes. And let's get this straight, folks. Israel is the outlaw here. Israel is the bad guy. Israel is the bloodthirsty, genocidal monster that we're all seeing in the independent media that Israel is, but we are not being told in the mainstream media what Israel is. Netanyahu is a bloody dictator, a tyrant, and a genocidal maniac, and Israel is a rogue state and has been for as long as I've been alive. They see themselves as God's chosen people, and they see themselves as being above man's law. And that's not fucking on. In fact, to be fair, they see themselves above God's law. And I don't know nothing about that. I'm no religious man. They just see themselves above every fucking law and standard that we have. Right, let's take the Scotsman down. So now you know the truth here, folks. Iran actually warned the countries involved that it was coming and told them that they'd be able to intercept them or give them warnings so they can intercept them. So it is really, really interesting. And James Connolly, who we flying back? Business people, families, and that have settled elsewhere in the Middle East. Right, next up we have the eye. Let's put the eye up. That's not the fucking eye, what's going on here? Here we go, it's going to be one of these ones when I go find the fucking thing. Here we go. Next up we have the eye, and the eye has UK is ready to defend our allies as Iran attacks American bases. That, folks, is a prime example of bullshit in the papers. Absolute bullshit. To see what Iran did yesterday was a clever piece of diplomacy. And as for Iran attacks American bases, they did not. They fired at American bases and told the Americans it was coming. Sorry, Melanie, I'm afraid Facebook won't allow my videos to go live until after I've finished. I won't allow them public until I go until I've finished broadcasting now. I've got more or less a total block on live broadcasts on Facebook, Melanie, so that's why there's been no Facebook for a couple of weeks. So the UK is ready to defend their allies. We want fucking forces. We don't have enough forces to defend these shores. Never mind fucking allies. Wow. Fucking nonsense. At this point in time, I could take on the British Army and win. Me, alone. One man, Davy. I could take the British Army on and fucking win. And apparently, did. No just could I take the British Army on myself in one. It would appear that some fucking protesters could just walk onto an airfield and play with a wee tin of spray paint. Fuck. Spray paint. Spray paint. If it's that easy going to a base, I could blow the whole fucking place up and face of the earth in about 10 minutes. And I wouldn't need to take it with me. The materials I would need to take would be on the fucking base. You could not make this up. Defend our allies. Can't even protect a fucking airbase for people walking in off the fucking street with spray paint cans. Fuck's sake. What a lot of nonsense. You wonder how they get away with publishing this shite. You see, I'll tell you what, Starmer. Here's a wee challenge for you. I'll take your fucking army on. Me, one man. Fucking idiots. Couldn't they fight their way out of wet paper bag? They're fucking spanners. Yeah, they could. Fucking no real. Fucking never heard so much bollocks in all your life. Unreal. Unbloody real. Wow, next up we've got the Looney Rag the Express. What's that fucking idiot paper got for us today? If I can find the fucking thing. Really ready to defend our fucking allies. What fucking allies? America's no trustworthy. We've isolated ourselves from Europe. Fucking arseholes. And I said, I'll take the British Army on myself. Bunch of fucking pussies. And as for the RAF, you can walk in off a street partly popes and put your tag on the side of their planes. Anyway, let's see what the fucking Express has got for us. Trump, time for peace after Iran's very weak attack. It wasn't a weak attack at all. It was a warning shot. And anybody can read the fucking ruins in diplomatic circles know that it was a warning shot. It was to prove to America that the Iranians could get missiles to their bases, and it was to tell the countries that are hosting the American bases that they're no safe. So now you've got the governments that host these bases worried about their civilian populations, and now you've got Donald Trump in America worried about the protection of the people who are in their bases. As I say, it was very clever for the Iranians, very clever indeed, and all within the bounds of international law. All within the bounds of international law. Fucking pure genius when it comes to diplomacy. Even pure genius when it comes to warcraft. Nobody get fucking hurt. And it was a clear warning shot. It said clearly, we can reach you. And we will. Very clever. Next up we have the Metro. Let's see what it's got for us this morning. If I can find the fucking thing. I'll better take the last one, don't I? Right, hold on. That should be the Metro. Here we go, folks. And the Metro has Israel and Trump target Iranian regime. Topple the Ayatollahs. Ain't gonna happen, folks. It ain't gonna happen. You can cut the head off that snake if you want. There's a million snakes there waiting to take care of the position. So they can talk about toppling the Iranian regime if they want. They've been trying for 30 fucking years. Ain't gonna happen. Just ain't gonna happen. Right, let's get rid of that one. Right, what's after the Metro? Let me give you a look down at my book. After the Metro, we have the Daily Fail. The Daily Fail, what nonsense does it go for as a day? And the Daily Fail has, so whose side are you on, Sir Keir? Labour accused of refusing to back America as Trump claims total ceasefire agreed after attack on US bases. So whose side is he on? Whose side is he on? And these fucking idiots at the Daily Fail no watching. He's bought and paid for by the Israeli lobby folks. In fact, the whole front bench of the Labour Party are bought and paid for by. No, Stephen Martin wasn't my cousin. Distant relative, but no my cousin, no direct. As I say, where were we? Whose side is he on? He's on the side of the fascists. He's on the side of the war criminals. He's a fucking disgrace and deserves to be in jail. Funny that, the last two Labour Prime Ministers have been war criminals. Isn't that fucking interesting? The last two Labour Prime Ministers are bloodthirsty war criminals. Huh? Whatever happened to Labour, the international solidarity movement? Whatever happened to Labour, the socialist movement, the Labour of the working people and the workers' rights? That's not the Labour Party that has been presented today. The Labour Party that's been presented today is right-wing, it's authoritarian, and it breaks international law. That's the Labour Party of today, and it's no one that anybody that I know here recognises. And I'm surprised that there are people here still voting for it. Because the Labour principles that I knew as I was growing up, the principles of international solidarity, the principles of unity within the workforce, the principles of being the party of the people, whether they're working or no, that's all gone. The Labour Party is just a name now, folks. It's no a political movement with any real movement, any real meaning or any real doctrine behind it. Stephen, I'm not quite sure what your fascination is with Irish politicians, but this is Scotland, mate. Right. So that was a Daily Fail. Let's get a shot of that. Next up this morning, with The Guardian. Let's see what The Guardian's got for us today. So it's on the one story, folks. Iran attacks US air bases, leaves Middle East on edge. Well, it definitely leaves the Middle East on edge. As I said, as I've been saying all the way through, it was a clever response. A very clever response. Now you've got worried American servicemen, and you've got the countries that are hosting these American servicemen nervous as well. Fucking great piece of retaliatory action without actually hurting anybody. Fantastic piece of retaliatory action. So that was The Guardian. Next up we have The Herald, the only paper that's no running on the Middle East this morning. And what's it got? This one's got a fucking outright lie and all. And folks, I'm not going to piss about with this one. I'm going to make it quite clear to you. You can go and look at these stats, okay? Now, what it says is doctors in warning, Scots NHS is dying in front of us. And then the subline below actually says that more people are using private medical services. Well, folks, see when you actually go and look those numbers up, they're false. Why are they false? Because they are heavily laden with people who buy prescription glasses. Because the eye test might be free, but you still pay for your prescription, you still pay for your glasses. You don't pay for the lenses, but you pay for the glasses, the frames. That's how it works here in Scotland. And the other service where people have to go more and more private, and this is the real one that's driving up the amount of people using private services here, is dental. So if you go and have a look at the figures, the majority of people who are going private are going private for dental services. Because after Brexit, all the Polish dentists that were here, and the Romanian dentists that were here, and the Czech dentists that were here, they all left, decimating Scotland's NHS dental service. The dentists who are left here, and remember the dental school was shut for 2 years as well, but the dentists who are left here, they're making a fortune. They're all working private. They've also got dual contracts with the NHS. They're making a fucking mint. But when it gets down to people going private for medical services, folks, when you look at the stats, it's for dental. That's why I've not got my Nashers fixed, because I can't get a dentist. I'm not in any pain, and the backlog for that 2 years, especially among young people, need to be cleared. You know, I think when I spoke to my dentist, they said I'll see you in about 6 months. So there you go. But, of course, I've always the option to go private. I could go and see my own dentist and offer to pay him full price, and he'll see me before that. But I'm a great believer in the NHS. And I'll get my dental work done on the NHS when they can get to me. But the headline, doctors warning Scottish NHS is dying in front of us because more people are using private medicine. Go look the figures up yourself, folks. Go and look the figures up yourself. Yep, there's a small increase in the amount of people paying for knees and hips. But the majority, as I say, is dental. Brexit decimated dental services right across these islands. No just in Scotland. I mean, if you look at the fucking situation with dental in England, wow. Right, let's take that one down. As I say, nonsense in the Herald, but at least it wasn't the Middle East nonsense. On the page. Next up this morning, we have the scum, and we don't put the scum up, as you know. So what's the scum got for this morning? Whining from home. Officials ordered into office for 2 days a week, and they want a pool, meaning a swimming pool, and a pay rise to do it. The civil servants who have been ordered back by Nigel Farage's 12 councils. What a fucking laugh that was, eh? Each and every one of them discovered that these people were working from home for a reason. The council didn't want to pay for office space. It was cheaper to have them working from home. So Reform taking their 12 councils and demanding that all council workers show up to work and go to the office means that there's 12 councils out there looking for hundreds of thousands of square feet of fucking office space, which just doesn't exist. There was a reason why these people were working from home. That wasn't a fucking pandemic. Because it was too expensive for councils to actually own properties to put them in. And that's been going steady in our councils since the beginning of the austerity. So what was that, 2011? Now I've got friends that work for the council, haven't they? Seen it, haven't they been into the fucking council offices forever? I think my brother goes in once or twice a week. My sister-in-law goes in once a month. If that. So, fucking mental. Yeah. Back to the office. Purely English story, of course. And it's got to be Farage. Alright, next up we've got the National. Let's put the National up. What's the National go for as a date? The National has an act of desperation. Corbyn, Palestine action ban is Labour's disgraceful attempt to hide the real violence. And in a week, this will be illegal. Hamish Morrison of London protests. So the national following a Scots guy who's went down to protest with Palestine Action, as they've been classed as a terrorist organisation. Now, apparently, Dumfries and Galloway is now pro-independence. John Swinney tells us that they're up in the free school meal programme, but it was all part of a rollout anyway, John, so you're not telling us anything new. And Iran attacks US military bases. Well, Iran fucking fired missiles. They didn't really attack. They gave them warning. Told them they were coming. Told them they were sending the slow ones so they could be intercepted. But made a clear warning to the US and the Middle East and the countries who will host the US and the Middle East that they could get to them. And if they use some of the more sophisticated armament, they're going to blow them off the face of the fucking earth. As we've seen with Israel and the collapse of the Iron Dome, because it's no good against hypersonic fucking missiles. And Iran have a fucking shitload of hypersonic missiles. And the capability to keep building them. Oh, eh? Brilliant. So, that's the national. Take that down. Next up, I think it's the Telegraph. I don't think we'll go with the Telegraph yet, so we'll put it up. The Telegraph has Iran fires at US air bases in Qatar, and they did. But they gave the Qatari government fair notice and told them what they were sending, when they were launched, and gave them every opportunity to take them down out the sky. They even told them how many they were sending. Okay, and the byline, Starmer, Smoke and Mirrors pledged to spend 40 billion on defence. That is Smoke and Mirrors. Folks, they're talking about increasing the proportion of GDP that they spend on defence. GDP is shrinking faster than my fucking soaps and the dryer. So it's a nonsense. And it is Smoke and Mirrors. When they talk about increased spending in defence and they talk about an increased share of GDP going to defence, with GDP shrinking, that increased share of that GDP also shrinks. So they're not spending any extra on defence at all. And I say, the UK military is that weak right now that you've got ordinary people on the street walking onto air bases and spraying paint on aircraft for the RAF. See, I'm quite happy to take the whole military on myself. I'll hit the hills, go escape the invasion, and hit a base every other week. No fucking bother with these muppets. None. Look at that, just some ordinary Joes, granny and school teacher, waltz into a UK military base and spray paint fucking airplanes. And they'll be prescribed terrorists. Fuck me, what would they have done with people at Greenham Common and the people at Fars Lane when they used to steal the fucking fence and raid the fucking bases every other night? Fars Lane was funny. They actually go in after tidying themselves up and sat in the fucking nappy bar and had a couple of pints for the sailors. Fucking mental. Greenham Common. Every time they put the fucking fence back up, the protesters would lift the fucking thing and walk away with it. With the handcuffs still chained to the fucking thing. Hi, Casper. Fucking spray painting a bit of metal, you become a terrorist. Oh, fuck. These people get no idea how they used to be done. CND would be a fucking terrorist organisation right now. Greenpeace would be a terrorist organisation right now. Fuck's sake. And they're talking about here to defend our allies, and you've got fucking Joe Boggs, a school teacher, and Granny Widdybottom going into air bases and spray painting fucking planes. Couldn't defend the fucking planes on a base. Never mind defend its fucking allies. You see, I'm quite happy to take the UK military on at this point in time. I blow them off the face of the fucking earth. And I would use the materials they had on site. It's that easy to get in there. Fucking no real. Absolutely no real. I could probably round up about half a dozen mates that I used to serve with, and we could probably take out the fucking UK military between us. Fuck. What a laugh. Hey, the book's been shut, so that tells you one thing. We're on the last paper of the day, and that's the Star. Let's see what fucking nonsense the Star's got for us today. It can't be any funnier than the shit that was in the mainstream papers. The ones that are considered to be real fucking newspapers. Wow. And you're right, Carol, we are extremists and proud of it. Fucking no real. Yeah. Prescribed terrorist organisation for fucking putting a wee bit of graffiti on a bit of tin. The better question is, how did they get fucking in? How did they go onto that base? And the answer is, they walked right on. In airfield, they just walked right on. Fuck's sake. Right, let's see what the Star's got for the day. It can't be any funnier than what's already been in the paper. We're all going on our glummer holidays. Holidaymakers ditch heatwave for big chill. What fucking heatwave? That's supposed to be the Daily Star of Scotland. I don't know Daily Star of Scotland. You don't know it. We haven't had a fucking heatwave. We had a couple of days of sunshine. And unfortunately, because our land is so wet, that couple of days of sunshine meant that all that fucking moisture that was in the surface of the ground rose up in the air and covered our sky. So no, we've not got a fucking heat wave. The sun's no breaking through the cloud. But that's one of the reasons why we've got what England and Wales need. And that is shitloads of water. Thank you, Mr. E. Thank you very much. We have got shitloads of water, and it's about to become a very precious asset going forward. We can always charge them for it when we get our independence. But glummer holidaymakers ditch heatwave for big chill. Fucking heatwave, is that what we call 14 degrees in the middle of the summer? A fucking heatwave. The Daily Star of Scotland's actually living in London. Spanners. Fucking no real. Mr. E, thank you very much. You're very generous. You're all very generous, actually. And as I say, for the 26th, I'll go on it because that's the latest we get the money in for YouTube. Bank balance is quite healthy. On the 26th, I'll get a printout and I'll show you it. Okay. It's quite healthy. And of course, as you know, we put out $750 a month in 3 awards to food banks. And anything that's left over, as you know, at Christmas and New Year goes out specifically to baby banks. No food banks, no food larders, no soup kitchens, specifically to baby banks. So that's the Christmas thing. So monies that are left there each month as we distribute £750, which we're still able to do at this point in time, that goes towards the Christmas payout to baby banks. Alright. Now, thanks very much for tuning in today in great numbers as usual. Our live audiences are brilliant, size is small. Filling a small theatre. On average between 150 to 200 people if you take in the Facebook audience. Because believe it or not, although you don't see the number there, I've got actually friends watching on Facebook who can watch it well before I make it public. Anyway, that's it for this morning, folks. I hope you enjoyed the review. It seems to have been on a wee bit longer than I expected it to. But hey, well, see you tomorrow morning, 10:30. Don't be late. You're on the fucking naughty step. Look after yourselves, look after each other. And we'll see what nonsense in the paper tomorrow. Have a nice day. Bye for now.